If you're in the market for any CRM systems or MarTech suites, you need to know which are the leading options. That's what we have discussed in this video. So let's start.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent digital transformation consulting firm. We help our clients with the enterprise digital transformation strategy, enterprise technology selection, as well as change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be top 10 CRM systems in 2025. Before we look at the list, we are going to look at several layers. How we compile this data, how we assess these systems, and the layers that you need to be looking at when analyzing these systems. And we are going to review each of the systems and touch on these layers where each of the product is positioned. Each of the vendor as well as the systems have very unique position in the market. Most of the customers, they don't necessarily know how to analyze that. They don't necessarily understand the differences. When you are going to look at the marketing material, they are going to come across as very similar. But once you have started either implementing them, using them, then only you are going to run into challenges. Now, overall, from the CRM market perspective, you are going to find two categories of systems. And in this particular case, we are looking at the product itself, the CRM product, not necessarily the companies that are supporting these systems. And then we are looking at just the best of breed CRM suite. We are not looking at just the CRM module of an ERP. They generally don't rank on this particular list. For this particular list, we are looking at companies of all sizes and industries. Sometimes based on the size as well as the industries, the processes are going to be so different that this list might not make any sense. In general, our recommendation to our customers is that you should always hire a consulting firm that can help you with the selection process, because this does require analysis of your requirements in terms of the kind of key priorities that you are going to have, and assess that against any of the products that we have on the market. But let's say if you cannot afford that, then obviously you don't have a choice, and then you need to utilize a list such as this. Even for our list, our recommendation is going to be go for the most specific list that you can find. So for example, let's say we have several lists that we publish, and even for CRM systems, we are going to publish the list for CRM systems such as your manufacturing, retail, professional services. And even in that, we are going to have a segmentation such as not-for-profit, etc. And these things get deeper because each of these business models are probably going to have its own nuances based on their processes, based on their hierarchies they are going to have, among their customers. So these all factors matter when it comes to selecting the CRM. So again, try to find the list that is specifically designed for your industry as well as target market segment. If you cannot find that, you need to go upwards, and then whatever you can find, I guess that is probably going to be the best option. This is going to be generalized list for all of the market segments. So sometimes this could be slightly more generic, but hopefully some of these insights can help you in assessing where each of the products are, and hopefully help with your selection process. Some of the other layers that you need to be thinking about from the CRM perspective is that some CRM systems are primarily marketing automation systems. In general, the data model of those marketing automation systems was never as detailed to be able to support the operational processes of many different industries. And when I say operational processes, I'm not necessarily referring to the actual operations or financial operations. I'm talking about customer facing operations. This is going to be just the your sales, marketing, customer service. All of those touches are going to have your operational workflows as well. The kind of business objects that you are going to require in each industries are going to differ substantially. So sometimes these marketing automation systems do really well from the upstream marketing perspective, but they are not as detailed from the downstream marketing perspective. So that is going to be one layer that we are going to be utilizing as part of this review. Prescriptive model versus the customizable. So 90% of the CRM systems that we have on the list, they are very prescriptive. So if you are going to have plain vanilla sales process, they are easy. They might be able to support, let's say, the custom field, maybe custom objects, but that's the extent of it. They are not going to be as infinitely scalable that you might think, especially if you don't have as much background with CRM implementation. Your assumptions are going to be that you are looking for a system that can produce any report, that can produce any data, but that's not how the large majority of the CRM systems work. You still need to analyze in terms of which data you are trying to get from the CRM systems and where that data is going to come from, whether you have those hierarchies established inside the CRM system. And if you don't have that, then most likely you are going to have challenges in getting that data. And if you do have those layers, then sometimes that does become slightly more difficult to be able to input that data. So sometimes what people are going to say that, you know what, I'm looking for easy to use, but at the same time, I also need the data that I'm looking for. And these two are two conflicting perspective. They don't line up with each other. So that is something you need to keep in mind when you are analyzing, okay, what is your priority right now? Are you looking for more of the easy to use system and you don't care as much for data integrity? If that is your priority, then we have different systems. If your priority is going to be really these scalable layers to be able to support many different business objects, layers, etc., then you need to invest a lot more in your implementation, training, etc. It's going to be slightly more difficult to work with. So the other layers that we have to compare these systems is some of these systems are going to be developed using slightly more modern technology. They might be able to support modern technologies such as webhooks, but then they are going to be limited in terms of the processing power that they are going to have. They might not have as much support for the custom object. So if you are going to have very ad hoc processes, very custom processes, that's where you are going to probably run into issues with that. So again, that is just one layer you need to keep in mind, and we'll be touching on all of these layers as we review the individual systems as part of this list. B2B versus B2C is another layer that we will discuss. B2B has very different processes. Sometimes systems are going to claim that they can do both. But again, B2C is a very different process. The kind of integrations that you are going to have there, the kind of intertwined processes that are going to be triggered across the systems. For example, let's say B2C systems are going to have much tighter alignment with the e-commerce systems. They are going to have much tighter alignment with your the CDP systems as well, that you are not going to find in B2B because the sales process is very different. The marketing processes are very different as well. We see all the time that sometimes these systems are being used where they are not necessarily designed for. And that's when companies run into real issues from the implementation as well as from the adoption perspective. Some CRM systems might claim that they are really easy to use, but sometimes they could be just a single feature. They might not have as comprehensive suite. So it might be just a single feature. In general, the large majority of the systems that we have, CRM systems that we have in the market, they acquired several different capabilities and they all consolidated as part of their product model, the data model. That's how most of these CRM systems grew. So just because a system might be easy to use, that does not mean that they have the suite capabilities. So that is another factor that you need to keep in mind. Overall, the number of variables that we have utilized to compile this list is product share, the acquisition strategy focused on CRM, product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as investors. So these are some of the layers that we look at when we analyze any CRM systems. Even for this, we have incorporated all of these variables. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Oracle CX Cloud. And Oracle CX Cloud is a very enterprise grade product. 90% of the CRM systems that might claim that they are really easy to use, but they don't necessarily have those enterprise grade capabilities. In general, when you are going to be much larger organization, and when I say larger, meaning Fortune 100, Fortune 500, these organizations are very different. The kind of capabilities that they are going to require in terms of their planning, even their sales planning is going to be very different. The way they are going to structure their territory, the kind of approval processes that they are going to have, they are going to be very different. Even for content promotion, you are going to have very different approval workflows that might not be relevant for the small small and mid-sized organizations that are going to be lean, nimble, etc. So Oracle CX Cloud is designed for those enterprise organizations. There are very few products in the market that have those enterprise grade capabilities, but obviously because of those capabilities they are going to be extremely difficult to implement. You would require a much higher IT maturity in terms of to be able to customize, and 90% of the CRM systems are more of the platforms. They barely have 5, 6 business objects. So you require a lot of development that you need to do on most CRM systems. And if you have not done this before, it's going to be a very heavy lift for your organization. So in general, Oracle CX Cloud does well in some of the industries. For example, telco, media, their CPQ, and CPQ is another area that probably we can spend hours in discussing that. For each of the industries, the CPQ is very unique. And when you are going to have CPQ included as part of your CRM suite, it's not going to work for every single industry. So the CPQ that Oracle has, it is designed for slightly more telco, media, B2C centric organizations, but these B2C centric organizations are going to be much larger. From the marketing automation perspective, they have two marketing automation products as part of their portfolio. They have one for B2B and B2C. And that's why the enterprise grade products, they will be able to support many different business models from many different perspectives. And that's where Oracle CX Cloud is really strong. Some of the strengths to keep in mind from the Oracle CX Cloud perspective is that they have the majority of the buckets that any of the large CRM vendors are going to have. That is going to be your sales cloud, marketing cloud, customer service cloud, field service processes. All of those are going to be supported as part of Oracle CX Cloud as well. But they are really strong in the marketing automation as well as the ad spend tracking. And this is going to be friendlier for media companies. They do a lot more work from the ad spend tracking perspective. So again, for media, telco, etc., Oracle CX Cloud is probably going to be a better fit. Then they also have some very unique capabilities. For example, the content and centralized asset management. Now, based on the newer technologies in the market, for example, let's say if you look at Monday.com, Airtable. Now, these technologies are so easy to use and incorporate. So the digital asset management space is going to change. But generally, when you are sort of trying to centralize the security workflow across many different applications, that could be a risk in a lot of organizations which have to go through the regulatory processes. And that is going to be your financial services, life sciences industries. In these industries, even the content that you are going to publish on these websites, or let's say if you are distributing data on email, that has to go through many different series of approvals that might not be supported in the smaller software that might be easier to use. So that's where for these processes, Oracle CX Cloud is probably going to be a better fit. The final strength that we have is the whole integration with the enterprise grade CPQ as well as the sales performance management is going to be far friendlier with Oracle CX Cloud. The limitations that you need to keep in mind from the Oracle CX Cloud perspective is the UI is probably not going to be as modern as some of the other newer platforms that we have on the list. And it's probably not going to be as strong for B2B as well as for the post-sales activities from the CX perspective, but then they have their ERP that is going to be tightly integrated with this. So again, Oracle CX Cloud is probably not going to be a great fit for that. Also, even though it is going to have far more processes from the approval perspective, but you look at for example, let's say if you want to utilize this on other geos, for example, Europe, they are going to have GDPR compliant processes. So SAP C4 HANA is going to have far more detailed capabilities in terms of the way they are structuring their data model, and they are allowing the control for the individual user to be able to manage their own permissions. Some of those capabilities might not be there with the Oracle CX Cloud, even though it is the enterprise grade product. So those are some of the limitations, and that's number 10. Now, number 9 on our list is SAP C4 HANA. SAP C4 HANA is a very similar product as your Oracle CX Cloud. In general, SAP C4 HANA is going to be very enterprise grade. For the most part, let's say if you have to customize your sales process and you are looking for very customizable platform, that's where your SAP C4 HANA is going to be a great fit. It's going to be very similar to your SAP C4 HANA, Oracle CX Cloud, Microsoft Dynamics, Customer Insights, as well as the CRM that they have. That is going to be very enterprise grade. And Salesforce, probably those four platforms are going to be very enterprise grade in general for very highly customizable enterprise processes. And then the strengths that you're looking at from the SAP C4HANA perspective is the integration with their products such as your customer data cloud as well as Gigya. It's going to be far stronger in general from that perspective. And then the limitations that you are looking at from the SAP C4HANA perspective is the marketing automation offering is probably not going to be as strong. The integration is going to be tight with SAP products, as well as the complexity of the solution. Again, this is a very enterprise grade product, so it might not be as friendly for SMBs that might be limited on their consulting implementation budget. So that is something to keep in mind, and that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is Zendesk Sell. And Zendesk Sell is a very small product designed for very small SMBs. It's going to be especially friendly for companies that are going to be on the Zendesk product for their customer service, for their case management. Some of the strengths that we have from the Zendesk perspective is it's probably going to be really simple interface for startups. It's going to have much deeper process from the agent perspective, from the customer perspective. They are investing a lot more in those customer service processes. When you talk about the telco integration, etc., that's where their majority of the investment is. So that is going to be one of the strengths that you're looking at from the Zendesk perspective. Now, the other strength that you need to keep in mind is it might be easier transition for Zendesk user, even though this is a completely separate product that Zendesk bought. It used to be called Base CRM. So the integration is not going to be as smooth, as streamlined as you would expect. If you're buying two products or two modules of a product from the same vendor, but at least you are going to have some alignment from those two products. The calling as well as emailing sort of features are going to be okay with this particular app. You're not going to have as many problems with that. The limitations that you're looking at, the integration of those sales and support app, that is not going to be as great, as smooth, as streamlined. The marketing automation capabilities are not going to be as deep as you are going to find with products such as your HubSpot, as well as the advanced CRM capabilities. If you're looking for very customizable CRM, this is probably not the best fit. So that's number 8. Now, number 7 on our list is Monday.com. And Monday.com is a platform. Monday.com can be used as a CRM as well, but that is going to require a lot more consulting help in general with the product. The CRM processes might not be as built as you are going to find with the other products. So you will be investing a lot more with consulting. In general, the way the data model is designed from the Monday.com perspective, it's very fragmented, across different sheets. You can consolidate that, you can get data, but from the process integration perspective, the data model is not integrated. So if you're looking for any sort of process control, that's where you are going to run into issues. Even though you can make calls, you can get data from one business object to the next, but again, the integration is very limited, and that you are going to find with slightly with the CRMs that are going to be designed for CRM workflows. They are going to have the native enablement of these processes as part of the CRM. The strengths that you're looking at from the Monday.com perspective is it's going to be customizable. So you can model any process that you like because it's essentially a spreadsheet, but then you are not going to have as much control if your users are not going to input the right data. And when you are moving that data from one process step to the next, you are going to run into challenges, even though you can create the validations. But again, you are putting a lot of work, which might be available or included with a lot of different CRM systems that we have on this list. Some of the other strengths that you're looking at, overall, the automated actions, the integration with the other apps, that is going to be possible. Monday.com does have very strong ecosystem of different apps. The integration platform is very mature as well. So that's going to be another strength. Then the final strength that we have is for industries. Let's say if you're looking at real estate or not for profit, in general, these industries are going to have very ad hoc operational processes. They require very fluid structure. They are always changing from the CRM perspective. For those industries, It might be a great start. It might not always be the best. Let's say if you are going to be slightly bigger organization where you have already outgrown some of the CRM systems, for those organizations, it might not be the best fit. But let's say if you're a startup, you just don't know your processes at this point of time, it might be great to start just a stopgap solution until you figure out, okay, which processes you want to implement in the mainstream CRM system to consolidate different teams that you might have. So in those scenarios, Monday.com could be a great fit. The limitations that you're looking at from the Monday.com perspective is, since it is so fluid that your users, the consultants, you have a risk of over customization, over engineering. And that's a big risk that we see across the spectrum, where companies have tried to over engineer, customize, and then now they have become their processes, and it's very hard to undo those processes once you get into a rhythm of a process. So that could be a risk that you need to keep in mind. Primarily a project management tool. It has far deeper capabilities from the project management perspective, not necessarily a CRM tool, but again, it's a spreadsheet. So you can do pretty much whatever you want, but then you are going to be spending a lot from the implementation consulting perspective. Data integrity is going to be a problem just because the business objects are not going to be as connected as you are going to find with the other CRM systems that we have on this list. So that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is Sugar CRM. And Sugar CRM has very unique layers as part of its model. For the most part, Sugar CRM does really well in slightly more industrial spaces. In those industrial spaces, the amount of operational capabilities that you are going to require from the CPQ perspective, from the estimation quoting, the amount of financial data that you need to bring in your CRM system is going to be at a different level. So those industrial companies require very different capabilities. They require much tighter alignment with the e-commerce system. They require much tighter alignment with the ERP system. So those industrial companies are uniquely different. Sugar CRM also has some more unique layers. For example, let's say if you are going to be very subscription centric industries, and that is going to be your IT, financial services, etc. Some of these subscription centric capabilities require very tight collaboration, embeddedness in your data as well as process model. So let's say if you are going to buy two different components, let's say you buy Zora for your subscription based offerings, and then you're going to have Salesforce for your CRM. Marrying them together could be a challenge, even though they are very tightly integrated, but still they are coming from two different vendors. They have their own sort of product life cycle. So that could be a challenge. And that's where Sugar CRM is going to provide much easier alignment because they are natively baked, natively supported by the vendor itself. So if you are going to be in these spaces, Sugar CRM should be the option that you should be evaluating. Also, Sugar CRM has another strength, more for the cost sensitive organizations. The way their pricing, etc., is designed. Sometimes these tools, for example, let's say if you go to HubSpot or Salesforce, they could be prohibitively expensive, especially if you're doing a lot of marketing, etc. Sending tons of emails. Sugar CRM may have slightly friendlier licensing and pricing model as well. For that, the kind of tiers they are going to have, they are not as expensive as what you are going to find with HubSpot. The limitations that you're looking at from the Sugar CRM perspective is the interface has been designed, it's modern. The newer product, if you look at, it's as good as any other products that we have in the market, but some of these screens are still going to be legacy. So that is something you need to keep in mind. It's not a big problem. This is a similar problem that you are going to find even with Microsoft. For the most part, the majority of these screens have been re-architected using cloud native technologies. But let's say if you go to some of the admin screens, it might still have that legacy feeling. So that is something to keep in mind if that is going to be a problem for you. Integration ecosystem, even though they have been trying to get a lot of different apps in their ecosystem, it's just not as developed as your Salesforce or HubSpot. But depending upon how many different options you need, if you don't require as much external integration, then Sugar CRM could be a great fit. It's probably not going to be as strong from the upstream marketing ecosystem perspective. For example, let's say if you look at HubSpot, HubSpot does really well in integrating with many different upstream marketing platforms, or if you're looking for that the whole CMS, traceability of your pre-sales process. That's where HubSpot is really strong. That may be a challenge with Sugar CRM. And for the most part, you would probably require another marketing automation platform. But let's say if you are the industrial company, you are not necessarily as strong in those upstream marketing processes. In those cases, Sugar CRM could be a great fit. So that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Pipedrive CRM. In Pipedrive CRM is designed for the smaller organizations. For the most part, it is going to be a smaller product than your HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. Salesforce has many different products. They have one for startups as well. But for the most part, in terms of size, in terms of their data model, process model, Pipedrive is targeting slightly smaller companies in general. Overall, their unique differentiation, as well as the layers that you're going to find inside Pipedrive, they can support some of the CPQ processes as well. And now those CPQ processes, they are sometimes that could be tricky because CPQ is very unique to each of the micro industries. So even if you are going to have CPQ processes as part of your product model, that is probably not going to work for every single industry. So that's why a lot of CRM systems don't necessarily include the CPQ. For example, let's say if you look at HubSpot or Salesforce, they are trying to create slightly more generalized platform. And then for each of the industries, you are probably going to find several different CPQ options if they are going to be integrated there. If not, then you need to sort of customize the core platform. With Pipedrive, you're sort of tight coupling with those CPQ processes. So let's say if you are going to be in industries, for example, let's say if you are a startup and you have very simple estimation billing process, in those cases, you might be okay in managing with Pipedrive. Obviously, the billing, when I say I'm not talking about ERP-centric billing, but this is just the customer-facing aspect of the billing invoicing. Some of those processes can be supported as part of Pipedrive, depending upon the architecture that you want to build. The other unique differentiation with Pipedrive is they also have the document centric processes supported. So, for example, let's say if you're looking for those alerts from the document opening perspective, let's say if you send a proposal to anybody and then you want to know, okay, what have they done? And if you want to take any sort of action based on that, these processes might be trickier with the other products if they are relying on a third party product. With Pipedrive, they have this as part of their native offering itself. Pipedrive also has made one acquisition from the data perspective. So now they are able to provide a lot more automated data flows. HubSpot has just acquired that data company, so they are slightly late in the game with respect to the data driven workflows. But for the most part, other ecosystems, for example, Salesforce, they are going to rely on other data platforms. For example, if you talk about Zoom Info, etc., they are probably going to rely on that, but they are not going to have as intertwined sales and marketing workflows, especially when you are looking at the autonomous targeting for the prospects as well, for the targeting as well as for the marketing automation. So these are some of the strengths to keep in mind from the Pipedrive CRM perspective. The other strength that we have for Pipedrive CRM is even though it is a small product, it does have workflow automation capabilities. But again, pay attention to each of the objects, how many layers they have. And it's a very small product. So the capabilities are going to be much lower than HubSpot. And that's why HubSpot is far more expensive in general. But they do have workflow automation capabilities that you might not find with these smaller products. The look and feel is very similar to HubSpot. So that could be a plus. Let's say if you have used HubSpot in the past, and now you want to move away from HubSpot either because it's not working or the pricing is too expensive for you and you're looking for slightly simpler solution. If that is the case, then Pipedrive could be a great fit. And in those cases, at least the look and feel is going to be similar. And because of that, you are not going to have as much adoption risk. Easy customization of reports and goal setting. So goal setting is going to be unique layer as well. Again, depending upon how big you are, do you really use that? For smaller organizations, goal setting is not probably going to be their priority. But again, depending upon how your sales organization is structured. Some of the limitations to keep in mind is their data structure is going to be weaker compared to HubSpot. Even HubSpot is very limited for the custom processes. So again, you are looking at very fixed, rigid processes that are not going to be as customizable, especially if you are going to be in an industry such as your not-for-profit real estate. That's where you have majority of the challenges. If you are going to be, let's say, manufacturing company or retail company, you might not have as many challenges because they go through the very similar sales cycle. And then you have the data import export. We have heard some challenges there. Some users have reported that. And then it's not necessarily suitable for the larger organizations. So that's going to be another challenge. And that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is HubSpot CRM. And HubSpot CRM is primarily good for marketing automation. It does have the CRM component. It has all of the layers that a mainstream CRM is going to have. But for the most part, for the operational transactions, if you have plain vanilla sales process, then it's probably going to be okay. But if you have very custom process, very custom objects, HubSpot could be a challenge. We have seen a lot of failures in the HubSpot space, even though HubSpot community is going to argue that it is probably one of the best CRM products. It is best only for those industries where you have very rigid sales process. If you require very custom process, even though it is going to have custom objects, the custom objects have substantial limitations. So be careful with HubSpot. It's not designed for those operational capabilities, and that's why you have other CRM systems that are slightly better for that. But let's say if your priority is upstream marketing, you really care for the upstream marketing workflows, you care for ad integration, you care for traceability of each of the prospects that you are going to have across different channels. For those use cases, HubSpot is a greater fit, but not for the downstream operational sales and operational transactions that are going to be relevant in many different industries. The strengths that you're looking at from the HubSpot perspective is marketing automation, omni-channel tracking. The CMS is one of the most robust that we have in the market. So if you look for the synergy of CMS plus CRM, then HubSpot is a great fit there. But they also have a lot of limitations in their forms and the way your process is going to be modeled from your form to form. So again, do POCs, assess whether that is going to work or not before you sign any sort of long-term contract with HubSpot, because you might run into challenges there. The other limitations that we have from the HubSpot perspective, if you are very deep into sales compensation planning, territory planning, etc., then HubSpot is probably not going to be the best fit. That's where if you have very, very organized sales organization and you're looking for all of those processes, then you probably should be looking at something else. Number 3 on our list is Zoho CRM. And Zoho CRM is ideal for SMBs that are looking for slightly more downstream marketing processes. So compared to HubSpot, HubSpot is really good at the upstream centric processes. Zoho is really good at those downstream processes, and that's where your Salesforce is really strong as well. So Zoho is probably going to be a better fit for those processes. But then Zoho is going to have many limitations on their data model as well. So be careful if you're looking for very highly customizable platform, you still need to assess, okay, what kind of limitations you are going to have. With each of the objects, you are going to have limitations in terms of number of field. Sometimes these constraints might be manageable, but other times they might not be okay. So again, Zoho CRM is designed for the SMB segment for slightly simpler processes that might require much higher customization than what you might be able to do with HubSpot. But again, it has limitations as well. So the strengths that you're looking at from Zoho perspective is the data model is very similar to Salesforce. So that is one of the unique advantage. For example, let's say if you are paying a lot to Salesforce, Zoho in general is going to be much cheaper with their offering. So that is one of the advantages to come to Zoho. And then as part of the Zoho suite, you are going to get much more and much more alignment on those apps, even though the data model is not as well integrated inside Zoho portfolio as well. So even though you are getting all of these from Zoho, but still you are going to run into challenges, but at least you have these apps from the same vendor. The workflow, data quality, custom apps, all of these can be done from the Zoho portfolio perspective. They have much richer offering compared to other CRM vendors for and that's why it has been proven in a lot of different mid-market organizations, upper mid-market organizations, they are able to manage with Zoho just because of this flexibility. The limitations that you're looking at from the Zoho perspective is Zoho is not going to have as robust ecosystem as you are going to find with HubSpot or Salesforce. And sometimes those integration could be very expensive. So you are looking at a lot more consulting budget, implementation budget, maintenance budget over the long term if you are going to be using your best of breed tools, not all the tools from the Zoho portfolio. If you can limit yourself inside the Zoho portfolio, then you are going to have much easier life. You are going to save a lot of money in with respect to the integration, etc. Because for the most part, Zoho products are going to be better at communicating with each other. Other limitations that we have from the Zoho perspective is their data centers don't necessarily communicate with each other. So if you are going to have a CRM workload that is spread across many different countries, and you might have regulations, for example, from the CPQ perspective, that you need to go through different regulation. Sometimes you cannot share data among those data centers as well, but you still want to have synergy. You still want to have the consolidated footprint from the sales planning perspective. If you want to have that, that could be a challenge with Zoho CRM. It is not designed for those global workloads. So that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM and Customer Insights. And with Microsoft, the product is designed for very enterprise workloads in general. It's going to have much better synergy with a lot of different Microsoft products. If you are going to be on Microsoft for ERP, field service, etc., that's where you are going to find much better alignment with Microsoft. Microsoft CRM is also customizable compared to any other CRMs, but then it's also going to be slightly more difficult to use just because of that customizability aspects. The number of layers that you are going to have, that number of layers that you need to go through to perform a very single transaction, sometimes that could require a lot of clicks with these platforms. But again, that's what gets you the scalability. So depending upon your business model, depending upon your processes, how much scalability do you want? If you need scalability, then you don't have a choice but to go for slightly more complex platforms, because if you try to model this in simpler solutions such as your HubSpot, it's probably not going to work. The other strength that you have from the Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM in customer insights perspective is the business objects that you have. It's highly customizable. So you can model very complex sales and marketing processes that might not be possible with other smaller systems. The Microsoft products are going to be far more integrated also in the Microsoft CRM space. Their ecosystem is much more developed. In general, if you're looking for any third-party applications, whether these are going to be data applications or any other applications that you're looking at, or telco integrations, all of these are going to be part of their ecosystem. In general, it's a much bigger ecosystem. And then the customer insights product is very enterprise grade CDP product as well. So that has much deeper capabilities as you are going to find with any other enterprise grade CDP. So that's a huge strength with Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM and customer insights. Limitations that you're looking at from the Microsoft Dynamics product perspective is when you're looking at the website integration, when you look at the traceability of these upstream marketing processes, that might be a challenge. And that's why companies use, let's say they are going to use Microsoft Dynamics 365 for the downstream processes, and then they are going to use either ActiveCampaign or HubSpot as the marketing automation product. That is the acceptable arrangement from the architecture perspective, just because these two tools are going to have very different capabilities. They are really strong in both of these areas. So you might want to consider that. But for the most part, the upstream layers are going to be weaker in general with Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM. Overall, the consulting support is going to be far more expensive compared to the other products, and data model is probably not going to be as fluid as what you're going to find with the other products. So that's number 2. Now, number 1 on our list is Salesforce CRM. And the reason why Salesforce is so powerful is because number 1, their ecosystem, and number 2, their customizability. The number of sales and marketing processes that you are able to model across the industries, across different business models, that majority of the vendors that we have, even if they claim that they are as capable as Salesforce, it's just not possible, because they're the custom objects that we have with Salesforce. They have designed far more enterprise grade applications, including ERP. There are ERP systems that are prevalent in the Salesforce ecosystem. So that's where Salesforce is really powerful. When you have to model these complex processes, that's not going to be your plain vanilla sales process. If you have that, then any of these CRM systems could work. But if you are going to be off from that, you are looking for very unique ad hoc processes, that's where you need to find slightly more enterprise grade product, and that's where Salesforce CRM is really strong. So some of these trends from the Salesforce perspective is the robust data model for varied CRM needs, specialized capabilities for very industry specific scenarios. Telco, media, insurance, financial services, banking, these are some of the industries that they have business objects flavored. But again, those business objects could be fairly limited as well. Sometimes you might run into challenges in customizing those too. So there are always going to be pros and cons, but at least with Salesforce, you will be able to customize, even though the customizing that would require a lot of consulting help, the implementation budget. So make sure you are going to need these capabilities, and then only you should be selecting Salesforce as your CRM. And overall portfolio as well as the ecosystem is much richer with Salesforce. The limitations that you need to keep in mind with Salesforce is the cost. It gets very expensive from the consulting perspective, from the licensing, from the perspective. So you definitely need to keep that in mind. And the upstream marketing capabilities, especially if you care for the website traceability, website integration, all of those upstream centric processes, that is going to be a challenge with Salesforce, even if they have the marketing automation product. But with that as well, you will run into issues. Salesforce is far superior for the downstream processes. And then maybe you want to use another marketing automation product, for example, HubSpot on top of Salesforce for those upstream marketing processes. Not as integrated for the omni-channel traceability. And again, you need to create the architecture for that. You have several options available in the Salesforce ecosystem. So Salesforce native capabilities might not be as great fit, but then you need to utilize several other options that are probably going to be better fit. But let's say if you're looking for just the system of record from the sales and marketing perspective, then your Salesforce CRM is the best fit. So that's number one. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to link a detailed article that is going to have much deeper insights. So you might want to check that. This podcast is also available in the audio form on major podcasting platforms. So if you prefer that, check there and leave review if you really like that. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss them. And if you have not checked our digital transformation report, we include a lot of these rankings, especially the enterprise-wide perspective, combining from many different systems and processes, and then how to be successful with your digital transformation journey. So we are going to include the QR code that is going to be displayed throughout this video. So you might want to download that and check that out. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.